Hi everyone, welcome to Mix with Timi J. Today I'm going to show you how I mixed Anabella by Khaid. But before we get into it, I just want to acknowledge those of you that have been supporting this channel from day one. I really appreciate the support. And if you are joining us for the first time, make sure you subscribe to this channel because literally this is the only channel you get to see the mixing sessions to your favorite songs. So yeah, smash that subscribe button and let's get into it. All right, so this is the session to Anabella. But before I go into details, someone said mixing is hard, but mixing is actually not hard. You need to have the ears for mixing, and you also need to know what you are doing. So let me create a new tab. One thing I love about Reaper, whenever I create a new tab, I already set it in a way that my tag is there for me to use, and I have like my drum bosses, I have my effects set, everything is just routed automatically. So I don't have to go through the process of doing it every single time. So this is my Reaper template. So I'm going to import the stems. The tempo is 117. I need to set the tempo first. 117. Then I import the file into Reaper. Separate tracks. So what I do next is I arrange the tracks to where they belong. So this is the kick. Just looking at the stems, you can tell what instrument you're working with. So I know this is pad, pluck, strings, violin, what else? So I can move this to instrument track. Instrument bus, I mean. Then, what else? This is the producer's tag and rows. That is riser. So I'm going to put this under rows and transition. Then what else? What instrument is this? Okay. I'm putting that under instruments. Then what else? So basically I'm just setting the foundation for the mix first, because if the foundation is not solid, then trust me, the mix is not going to be solid. So yeah, I'm setting the foundation first. So this is me putting every instrument in their respective buses. So I'm going to move this to the drums. What else? What else do we have left? The shakers. As you guys know, I don't bust my shakers. Like, I just put them outside. I don't see any reason why you should bust your shakers. Mute. This is another instrument. I skipped that. The vocal. So what else is missing? Is there any other instrument? The bass. So yeah, I'm going to move the bass line with the kick because they're like low end frequencies. So after arranging the instruments, what I do next is I pick the lead vocal. So most of the producers I work with, they always make sure they arrange and label the stems I'm working with. So for instance, you can see the lead vocal is labeled lead. So I know everything here is the lead. And, it's always important to label all this track before sending it out to the engineer. Because these producers are busy. They're always in studio sessions. The artist is busy. Everybody is busy. So there's no time for back and forth to call the producer to explain what's this supposed to be and all this back and forth. So I know this is the lead vocal. And guys, I don't pitch correct vocals. I always give the instruction to the producer to export the pitch corrected vocals for me because to me it does not make sense. You already pitch corrected the vocal in the demo track, then bypassing the effects, sending it to me to pitch correct it again. I don't know, it just doesn't make sense. I feel like since you've done it already and it sounds great, just export it that way. I always instruct the producer, export the vocals with auto-tune. Yes, that's the way I like it. And if you are worried if it's going to affect the quality, nah, it's not going to affect the quality. It just means that the vocal is now corrected. That's all. It does not take anything from the quality. So yeah, I have the vocals here. Baby, waiting support. So that's the backup. So everything is arranged now. Then what's the next thing to do? The next thing to do is to apply this effects from Isotope. It's called Diplosive. So I use this to take out all those plosives in the vocal. Then I add EQ, fab filter EQ. Roll out like 100 or from 80 to 100 sha. It depends on how deep the artist vocal is.
Oh, if I ever hurt you, girl, I'm sorry. Oh, my baby, no go leave me for loser.
So if you guys notice, the vocals are in stereo. They're not in mono signal. I'm going to bounce this to mono. But before I bounce it to mono, I have to process it a little bit first. So I have this Diplosive and fab filter EQ. Then I use the basic C1 compressor from Waves to compress this vocal. So the way I use my compressor is it's just in a very, very like slight, in a basic way, but I'm not overworking the compressor.
My Anabella say now.
So it doesn't sound like unnatural to the ears. So what I do is I look at the average volume of the vocal.
My Anabella say now only you.
So if you guys can see, the vocal is hitting at -20. It's going above -20, but like the average volume is at -20.
My Anabella say now only you they turn me on. But I know send carry my money, make we go faji. Baby waiting support, touch my weakened point, oh. Make them throw me punch.
So you can see that every other part of the vocal is below -20, but there's some extra peaks that just go above that 20 dB range. So what I do is I add 2:1. For those of you that don't know what ratio means you're taking 2 dB and turning it to 1. So if you notice this ratio 1, this 1 at the end doesn't really change. It's stagnant. So you can say 25:1. That means you're taking 25 dB and you're turning it to 1. And yeah, 25:1 is too much. So let's just stick to like the basic 2:1. The attack, we can increase the attack to like, let's say 8 milliseconds. Then the release, probably to 75. And
My Anabella say now only you they turn me on. But I know
our gain reduction is around minus 3 dB.
my Anabella say now only you they turn me on. But I know send carry my money, make we go faji. Baby waiting up, oh, touch my weakening point, oh. Make them.
The purpose of this compressor is to compress those extra peaks in the vocal. Because if you really look at it, the vocal is not really like leveled. In a way, it's leveled, but it's not 100% leveled. So if you look at other stems, let me use something that is leveled. So if you look at this kick, for instance, you can tell that it's leveled because it's constant throughout the song. Let me use another let me look for another track. So if you look at this rim, you can see that it's somewhat leveled, so somehow leveled. Look at this percussion too. So everything in the song is leveled. Your kick is leveled, the snare is leveled, the instruments is somehow leveled. The only thing that is not leveled in this whole stem right now is the vocals. So you bring those extra peaks down to a point where everything is at least leveled to an extent. So after doing this, what I do after this is I bounce from stereo to mono. So on Reaper, if you right click on the bus track, you see render stroke phrase track. So I render tracks to mono stems track. So when you click this is going to take a little while and you have your new track in mono. It's not just in mono, it is in mono but with this effect. So now we have a new processed track.
Oh, if I ever.
And after doing this, we're still not done because it's still not really leveled. So what I do again is I create a new track and go to envelope, toggle volume. So the mistake most people make is they use compressor to level the vocals all through. In a way, it works sometimes, but sometimes it can sound like too excessive. So after compressing, you need to automate manually again. And automation takes time. Trust me, it's boring and it takes time. But it's going to make your vocal sound really natural. If you overcompress, it sounds unnatural and it sounds like the voice is choking, it's trying to breathe. But if you use automation, after compressing slightly and you use automation to reduce those extra peaks that the compressor did not really compress, the vocal can still sound natural and you get away with it. So yeah, after doing that, there's one rule I follow whenever I'm automating. I make sure I don't go above 2 dB and I make sure I don't go below 2 dB. So for instance, from the wave, I can tell that side is a little bit loud. So I can just bring it down like -1 dB. Just use your eyes to look at the loudest part of the song and the quiet part of the song too. So for instance, I feel like this side is looking quiet. So I can bring from this side to this side. I can bring it up by 2 dB. You know. So I go through this process throughout the song from the beginning of the vocal to like the end to manually adjust the vocals. So let's come back to the main projects. So as you guys can see, this is my automation settings. I usually don't go above +2 because there's sometimes you go above +2 and when you're listening to that part, it sounds like it's jumping. So it sounds like the volume is low, then all of a sudden it's loud, then it comes down again. And I don't know, it's just unnatural. So after compressing, you automate, but just slightly, not too much. And after automating, like I said, I'll go to render to mono track. Then it gives me my mono track. So the reason why you're seeing more than one is because, so when I compress, sometimes I feel like the compressor is doing too much. So I come back to adjust the compressor, then bounce it again. So you guys can see this one is really compressed because I really killed those peaks. Like I killed the life of those peaks. Then I was like, nah, I can't work with this. Then I came back to this bus, adjust the compressor, then bounced again. Then I have this. So this one is like very, 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 very compressed. This one is not really compressed. This one is not really compressed. So, I just experiment with stuff and see what works best. So after that, you mute those tracks that you don't need. Then I take the one I go with to the main bus track and I start mixing. But before I go into the vocal, let's touch the instrumental first. So for the instrumental, you have the kick. You guys can check out this plugin from SoundSpot. It's called Kickbox. So what I usually use this for is to add more impact to the low end, to the kick. So this before and this after. Then the bass line. I have the kickbox here as well. So the kickbox is taking plus 6 dB at 50 Hz. Then I have an FET compressor. So there's massive gain reduction in this bass line because I wanted to distort it a little bit and still give it that presence that the bass needs. Then for the percussions, I have NLS bus 2.5 dB drive for saturation on the bus and my ring preset. So I'm going to bypass this before and after. Before, after. So you guys can copy these settings on the screen. You can pause the video and copy these settings. Um, so that's what I did for the rim. The shaker, nothing much. The rolls. So I have stereo imager on the rolls and transition. So this is 1.70 to make the rolls very, very wide. And I had like a little bit of low end, 1 up fatter, 2 dB to boost the low end of the rolls. Then let's go to the instruments. So I have 2 instruments boss for this song. So this instrument is like this second boss, this particular one is those instruments that are not like throughout the whole song. All those instruments that come in once in a while. I added them here. Then this one is like the main instrument, the one that goes throughout the whole song. I have them in this box here. So this one, I love making this one like very, very wide. You can see this is 1.80. And the low end, okay, the EQ, I did not really touch this one, because there was no need. Then this other one, so I did a little compression on the main chord progression. So this one is like very, very wide because of the S1 imager I added to it. But this particular boss, this instrument one, this one is not wide. It's just, I don't know, it's somehow in the center in the stereo image. So the extra instruments are very, very wide. They're like lost in the stereo image. Then this one is still in the center because I don't want to make this one very wide so that it can support the lead vocal in a way when you're listening on like speakers that are not stereo. So that's why I left that there. So the guitars, I think the producer already mixed the guitars, but I added my own effects to them as well. So let me bypass all the effects. Just have to like compress the guitars to an extent, then stereo imager to make the guitar wide too. So yeah, you have the guitar, this instrument boss, another instrument boss, rolls and transition, shaker, the drums, like the snare, the rim shots, and the kick and bass. So that's all for the instrumental. And let me play the instrumental with the effects off, then on. So yeah, it sounds more cleaner and it sounds like better than when it was off. So let's go to the vocals. Normally this recording is like perfect, it's nice. It was probably recorded in a padded studio. So that's the thing. Like, if you guys are working with vocals that are not recorded properly, you have issues to mix them, and is I don't know, it's just stressful. But this vocal is like nice, everything is okay. So my preset is going to work perfectly in this vocal, and it's going to like bring out the quality in the vocal recording. So I'm going to bypass all my effects and put them on one after the other so we can tell what they are doing.
Waiting up, oh, touch my weaking point, oh. Make them throw
So
me
first is
punch, say me,
virtual
I
mix
go
rack.
take insult, oh. Leave them, make them talk, oh. Make them talk rumors, oh. Make them throw me punch, say me, I go take insult, oh. Baby, make you no do gaw, oh. Yeah, take anything where you want, I be talk and do. Money too long, you get part two. I know say you dey feel me, so no good, the boo. Girl, you dey reason me one kind, any
You
day
guys can
pay
copy
me, oh, any
the
day pay
settings
me. If
and
na
apply it
cash
on
where you
your
want, I
vocals.
go way below. Girl, if you ever for my hand, that thing go change me. Oh, say it go
So I
change
boosted
me. If I go
2
ever love
dB
you, now maybe.
at
Oh,
15K.
oh, if I hurt you, girl, I'm sorry.
Multi-band
Oh,
compressor.
my baby, no go leave me for lose a day.
For this range, this 2000 at, I noticed there was one whistle frequency in Khaid's voice. So, and I found out that it was around this 2000 hertz. So I compressed that. Then I did another compression, yeah, at 5000 hertz, all the way to like the end. I did minus 0.20 dB compression, and the ratio is 100 to 1. It's just like very, very slight but aggressive at the same time. Then Pro Q. I'm using Pro Q to boost the high end. Then the SR. Those
Waiting up, oh, touch my weaking
sibilants in the
point, oh.
vocals.
Make them throw me punch, say me, I go take insult, oh. Leave them, make them talk, oh. Make them talk rumors, oh. Make them throw me punch, say me, I go take insult, oh. Baby, make you no do gaw, oh. Yeah, take anything where you want, I be talk and do. Money too long, you get part two. I know say you dey feel me, so no good, the boo. Girl, you dey reason me one kind, any day pay me, oh, any day pay me. If na cash
So
where you want, I go
C6.
way below. Get
This C6 compressor, I used it like a DSR. I was trying to use it to control those high frequencies from 5000 hertz all the way to like the end to 20K. So what I did was I reduced the range to -5 and added like 4 dB makeup gain. And the attack is like all the way to like the lowest, the fastest attack on this compressor. Then I have the threshold all the way to -80. So the compressor is like really taming the high frequency like aggressively, but I'm giving it like -5 dB range and 4 dB makeup. So it's like the compressor is not going above, it's not going below, it's just there. So yeah, that's like another type of DSing in a way, but that's the way I see it. Then the mid range, I did the same thing too, but this time around, the range is at -0.5 because the mid range is like the power of the song, especially like the vocals. If you don't pay attention to the mid range, you're going to like, it's not going to sound full in a way. So that mid range is like important. That's the reason why I don't mess around with the mid range. Then I have saturator for the vocals.
waiting up, oh, touch my weaking point, oh. Make them throw me punch, say me, I go take insult, oh. Leave them, make them talk, oh. Make them talk.
As you can see, this is 1K, 1.5 dB, and this is like the mid-range of the vocal. I had to like boost more mid-range so that the vocal can like come out more, can stick out in the instruments. Then viola reverb.
Waiting up, oh, touch my weakening point, oh.
This is not my main reverb. This one is just to make the vocal like swim more. I don't know, just to give that room feel somehow. Then I use this plate presets, 10 dB mix, and 1 seconds decay on the main boss. So this is not my main reverb. We're still going to get to my main reverb in a bit. So yeah, CLA, top, 1 dB, then final compressor. So whenever you're mixing a vocal, it's safer to always put a compressor at the end of your vocal chain, because the moment you boost different frequency, boost high end, boost this, boost that, boost, you need something to glue them like all together. And that's the reason why I use this DBX 160. This is just like that final compressor on the song. Then
Waiting up, oh, touch my weakening point, oh. Make them throw me punch, say me I go take insult, oh. Leave
after
them, make them talk, oh. Make them talk rumors, oh.
so we're going to go to the reverb now. I have this GW voice centric. I don't know, I love their reverb. Sometimes it sounds trash sometimes, but some other time it sounds really nice. So
Waiting up, oh, touch my weakening point, oh.
I routed my lead boss to this reverb and is at minus 25 dB. Then I have my main guy, my main reverb gone. the main Idon viola reverb. What? I'm surprised. I used this reverb. Even myself, I'm surprised that I used this reverb, because I usually don't use this reverb, but probably at some point in the mixing stage, I switched off viola reverb and I used this. So yeah, I I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about this reverb. Even myself, I'm surprised that I used it. So you guys know, whenever I create, let me go back to this project. Whenever I create a new project, I have all the bosses routed. I have my tag already set at the end of the song. I have all the effects in their respective bosses. So if you look at my reverb track, you can see that all the reverbs are there for me to access. So whenever I'm mixing, I try to like go through different reverb and see what works for the song. I don't believe there's one perfect reverb that works all the time. So like I showed you in the example of compressing the vocal, I compress aggressively, I compress slightly, and I see what works for the song. So same thing with my reverb too. I check different reverb and I see what goes with the song perfectly. And I'm very, very surprised that I used this epic reverb. Even myself, I shock. So that's for the reverb. Then delay, viola requires a license to run. Now, wow, my viola delay has deauthorized, so I'm going to skip that EQ compressor on the delay. So I think the compressor is side chained to the lead vocal. So
Sorry, girl, I'm sorry. Oh, my baby, no go leave me for loser D. My Anabella say now only you they turn me on. But I know say
For this backup, this backup came with its own effects.
oh, oh, oh.
So let me take it out of the lead bass. So you hear the sounds on its own. So the producer already exported that in stereo because of the reverb, and all I did was I compressed the vocal and I added like extra reverb to it because it was not enough. And the ad-lib is with the lead vocal. They're on the same track.
But you, girl, I'm sorry. Oh, my baby, no go leave me for loser D. My Anabella say now only you they turn me on. But I know send carry my money, make we go for G. Baby, waiting up, oh, touch my weakened point, oh, make them.
So let's go to the backup. Let me bypass them first, then I'll play them with the effect.
Baby, waiting up, oh, touch my weakened point, oh, make them throw me punch. Say me, I go take insult, oh, leave them, make them talk, oh.
So that's the backup without effects. So rough and it's not smooth at all.
Baby, waiting up, oh, touch my weakened point, oh, make them throw me punch. Say me, I go take insult, oh, leave them, make them talk, oh, make them talk rumors, oh.
So the thing with the backup was I just had to like compress everything, and I think I was aggressive with the compressor too.
Baby, waiting up, oh, touch my weakened point, oh, make them throw me punch.
So my compressor was going to like -10, -20 dB gain reduction. So it was very, very aggressive. But I added like gain to match up with the lead later on. Then I routed the backup to the backup reverb. And I used this guy again. I don't know why I used this guy, but I used it and it sounds nice.
Baby, waiting up, oh, touch my weakened point, oh, make them throw me punch. Say me, I go take insult, oh, leave them, make them talk, oh, make them talk rumors, oh, make them throw me punch. Say me, I go take insult, oh, baby, make you no do ga, oh, yeah, take.
So that's for the chorus backup. Then this one.
Girl, you the reason me want kind, any day pay me, or any day pay me. If not cash where you want to go away, be low, girl.
So this one I added stereo major S1. I took it all the way to 1.50. Then EQ, roll out the low end. Then this virtual mix track was the same preset I took from the lead vocal. So I just tracked that and dropped it here for the backup. And C1 compressor to compress the high end because I noticed it was clashing with the lead vocal. So and I routed it to the backup reverb that was also feeding this backup here.
Girl, you the reason me want kind, any day pay me, or any day pay me. If not cash where you want to go away, be low, girl.
So yeah, that's that on the vocal and the drums and everything. So the mastering, you guys did not join my masterclass, and that's my own secret, Sha. Except if you guys pay for my masterclass, I'll show you how I master my songs to be very, very loud and smooth and wide, and I don't know. But yeah, this is the mix to Anabella by Khaid. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you share, you subscribe, you like, post on your story on Instagram, tag me at official Timi, and I'll make sure to repost every video. And I remain your host,
Timi J on the track.
This is my favorite part of every music. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Bye.